Hey everyone, welcome to the Agile Marketing Bootcamp today. So this is a quite high intensity leadership session and it's designed to be interactive and actionable and practical. So the theory is that you can apply these key principles to your organisation from the get-go. We've been working with ambitious firms of all sizes for over 7 years to help them embed new ways of working to drive more effective marketing and improve performance and deliver against your business goals. So this year we've seen that business and marketing agility has become even more of a strategic imperative because it allows you to be more adaptable and build resilience. So that's why we started running these bootcamp sessions. Today we're joined by Sean and Pete from Bright, who are going to take us through how we use data and insights in agile marketing, and also how to avoid the common pitfalls of vanity metrics. If you have any questions throughout the session, please drop these into the questions box on your panel, and then we'll cover these in the question and answer at the end of the session. So over to you, Pete and Sean.
Great. Thanks, Martha. Morning, everyone. Great to virtually meet you all. So I'm Sean. I'm a director at Bright, and I work primarily with businesses to embed agile ways of working within their marketing teams and help them to use data and insights more effectively to optimize their marketing performance.
Hi everyone, my name's Pete. I'm a senior marketing executive here at Bright and I help with delivery across the board and help clients really generate data-driven insights for their business.
Great. And so quick overview of what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to kick off the session with talking a little bit about the role of data and its importance in agile ways of working. We'll then move on to the main event, which is really talking about some tips and tricks and how to set up for success. Bringing data, becoming more data driven, and how to manage those pesky vanity metrics. And then finally, we'll round up with some tips and tricks for how to incorporate data-driven approaches within your own marketing teams. So to kick off with, quick poll question for everyone, and this is multiple choice, so you can respond with as many challenges as you'd like. But we'd be keen to understand what challenges you currently come across when determining insights from your data. So Martha, if we can get the poll up for everyone. And we'll give everyone a few seconds to just submit their answers. You can select multiple, so please.
Give it a couple more seconds.
Great.
Oh, they're flying through the votes. Okay, here we go. Great, so I'll just close that down. And I'll share the results. So one of the key challenges for everyone is aligning KPIs to business goals and quality of data as well. There we go.
Okay, that's useful. That's useful to note. We've certainly got a couple of slides where we talk about KPI definitions. So let's see if we can deal with some of those challenges as we move through the session. So to kickstart, Pete, talk us through the role of data in agile ways of working.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sean. So I just want to take you through the first couple of points. So in terms of agile ways of working, as you develop your agile strategies, you're going to base everything off of a test, learn, build approach. So these aren't 6 monthly campaigns that are set and forget. They're actually short sprints that are around 2 to 3 weeks in length. You're going to do about a handful of these, and each sprint is going to generate data and you're going to report and gain insights that are actually going to inform the next stage, the next sprint. So tracking and monitoring performance is essential for this prioritization and optimization that you're going to go through.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. I think all of those elements are really important, as they really help to generate the insights that you'll take forward into that decision making for how to optimize and improve your marketing performance moving forward. Depending on the size of your team, you could have decades of experience, running campaigns, marketing projects, whatever it might be, essentially. And that experience and those gut feel, the gut feel and assumptions are all great, and they're really, they're valuable and they have their importance. What's really critical is to make sure that you're marrying that with the data and the insights that you're generating from your activity, so that you're feeding that into the decision making moving forward. And the final point really is the ability to then go and demonstrate the value of marketing to the board or to the wider business. We ran a survey earlier on this year, and this was a key challenge highlighted by a lot of marketers, that they still have some challenge around that. So really agile ways of working and using that data-driven approach can help to mitigate some of those issues. The final point that we quickly want to touch on between sort of, I guess, more traditional ways of working and agile marketing is really around the ability to pivot and how you can use data and agile ways of working to course correct much more quickly than you might do through traditional means. I think one of the big challenges for traditional marketers is that when you veer off course, it can be, generally speaking, you're quite far down the line already, and so it can be quite challenging and time consuming to try and course correct. Whereas with agile, that process and that way of working, those regular checkpoints and reviews, they're embedded in that process. So by the nature of how you run agile campaigns or agile teams, you're very regularly checking in, monitoring performance, and that gives you that opportunity to pivot, and it gives you the agility to be able to do that and make sure that your marketing is aligned to those overarching goals. And that's where you'll start to see the value of agile and taking a data-driven approach moving forward. So as we move on to the sort of like the main event here, I think the first thing that we need to say is that data, certainly in this day and age for marketers, we have a lot of data at our disposal, and it's almost a blessing and a curse. I mean, I think one of the main challenges for a modern marketer these days is how to navigate that data landscape. What data should they be prioritizing and focusing on, and how do they generate the insights that is really going to help them to do their jobs more effectively. So to kickstart that, we're really going to focus in and talk a little bit about vanity metrics. And rather than me talk about it, I'm going to share an advert by Adobe that sums it up. So bear with me.
Peter, come take a look at this. The numbers, they keep getting bigger and bigger. The clicks are off the charts. Yeah.
Yoshi, close. We're back. Take a look at Woodfall. Leave out the book right now.
She really loves that thing.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, look, I'm a big fan of that advert. I think it does a really good job at summarizing, what vanity metrics are and some of the key challenges that marketers can face with them. And really, certainly with that advert, we can summarize that down into almost the quality versus quantity conundrum. In that instance, it was the quality of the clicks that were coming through. We work, even we've got examples where even when you're looking sort of like website traffic and you're seeing spikes in traffic and it turns out that it's a bot from a server from halfway across the world. There's lots of examples where that quality, quantity quality conundrum really takes shape. So how do we move past those, or how do we manage those more effectively? Because vanity metrics, there's certain connotations when we talk about vanity metrics, but they do have value and they do have some importance in terms of that marketing mix and how we measure performance. So, what are the key things that we can be doing to make sure that we're using them in the right way when it comes to measuring our marketing activity? Pete, do you want to kick off for us?
Sure thing. So every campaign, every strategy, and really every business is going to have different KPIs depending on what they're doing. So if we think about a campaign, if you're measuring brand awareness, for example, against a lead generation campaign, the KPIs are going to be completely different. Brand awareness might be more focused on the impressions that an ad is going to get or the page views. Compare that to the lead generation campaign that is going to be more focused on form submissions and whether customers are getting in contact with you. So you're going to be measuring completely different things there. Also, another thing to point out is that these vanity metrics can actually be married with more actionable metrics, and that will create a much more dynamic measurement. For example, those page views on a blog post, combine those with the number of form submissions and you'll get the conversion rate. This really informs the ultimate goal, especially as your business grows.
Yeah, focusing and making sure that you're taking into consideration that bigger picture is really critical when we talk about how to use vanity metrics effectively, and that ties quite nicely into point 3, which I think can help set the scene a little there in terms of focusing on measuring what matters. So a classic example would be a campaign. The primary goal of a campaign is to generate leads. So when it comes to measuring how you're performing, that should be the ultimate goal. So whether it's social advertising, email, organic social, all of those, there's lots of metrics there that can be used. Some of those are what we would call vanity metrics, like page views, likes, clicks, etc. It's really making sure that you're then looking at what that's actually generating for you in terms of leads, and also the quality of those leads. And then the final point really is utilize dashboards where you can. I think ties back into the point where we have lots of data available to us, and it can be across lots of different systems. So using dashboards can be a really simple way to start to consolidate that data and get those insights all in one place so that you've got a clear snapshot. It's also a really great exercise in terms of when you're building out those dashboards, it forces you to really think about what are the things that you want to be measuring, what are the things that you want to be able to see quite quickly, so that you can determine how well your marketing is performing, and where there may be over or underperformance that needs to be managed. So deep diving a little bit more into what we talk about when it comes to focusing on measuring what matters. There's probably a few key areas that we can think about, certainly in today's climate. And the first one really is pipeline. We've been speaking to a lot of marketers over the last few months, and marketers are facing a lot of demand and pressure in terms of generating and building pipeline to support their business. So assuming that you have clear definition and you have clear sight of your pipeline, then measuring your pipeline velocity, your funnel conversion, whether that's MQL to SAL, SQL to opportunity, whatever it might be, having a clear understanding and be able to measure that pipeline performance is going to be really important. We do have a lead gen calculator as well, so if anyone is interested in looking at their pipeline and the number of leads or MQLs or SALs that they need to deliver in order to achieve some of their objectives, then please check out our lead gen calculator after this session. The second point really is, and we've talked about this in previous boot camps for anyone that's attended in terms of sprint planning and last week's agile campaigning, is also making sure that you're measuring at a project or campaign level as well as at a sprint level. So in those previous boot camps, we talk about the importance of defining KPIs at the very beginning and set those KPIs for the period of time that you're looking to run them for, as well as at an individual sprint level, so that you can monitor how each sprint is performing and helping you reach those project goals. And then you can start to identify how that project or campaign is helping you to reach your overarching business objectives. The third area to really think about as well is make sure that you're benchmarking. So whether you are running a couple of campaigns concurrently, or whether maybe you're running a campaign and you did a campaign into that target market or segment, a few months back, use this opportunity to benchmark to see how your marketing activity compares between some of the different tactics that you're using. You might quickly be able to identify areas of over or underperformance, or where things seem to be working better than they might have done previously, and that can be a really good starting point to then understand how, work out where to prioritize, where you might want to do some additional insight, research and analysis moving forward. And then Pete, if you want to take the final point.
Cool, thank you. So we are finding with clients the importance of using those buyer personas and targeting them along the buyer journey. So the buyer journey is literally that path that customers and prospective customers take before conversion. As a marketing or business leader, your goal is to seamlessly guide prospects along this journey as efficiently as possible. You need to use data to gain insights and inform that gut instinct that we spoke about earlier on which touch points should be included and excluded. So if we jump onto the next slide, so this is just a little representation of, say you took out one of those touch points because it wasn't directly converting and you didn't think it was having much of a business impact. Actually, it may have consequences downstream that you weren't aware of. So it's just making sure that you have all of the insights available to make a justified call.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really important. Something that we've been seeing, with our customers is the growing importance of that persona and buyer journey map, and really understanding how the different touch points, channels, assets that you might be using all play and work together to help you achieve a particular objective. We've been working, we've been working with clients recently to really sort of like bottom out their buyer journey map and starting to think about what the content and communications need to be to support that. And they're really starting to see some positive impact in terms of the level of engagement, as well as leads that they're generating, by being much more personalized and making sure that their marketing is much more attuned to that journey, the journey mapping process. So having that data there to really to understand how well you're performing against your buyer journey is going to be critical moving forward. So how do we start to do that? How do we start to set some of the foundations for data success? So I think going back to foundations a little bit and tying into the survey, the poll that we ran at the beginning, let's talk a little bit about KPIs, metrics, what we mean by those, and what steps you can take in place to make sure that you're setting effective KPIs. I think in my experience, we tend to fall into the trap of using KPIs and metrics sometimes interchangeably, and they're very different and have very distinct features. So KPIs are very much thinking back to the smart objectives. That's kind of what we're really thinking about when it comes to KPIs, and it's really about showing measurable value. And KPIs, effective KPIs really help you to understand and monitor how you're performing against overarching business objectives. So if that is growth, for example, and the business is looking to grow, then depending on what the type of business that you're, depending on the type of products or services that you offer, it might be increasing percentage of customers, and that then might further break down in terms of, well, if you're a product company, then it might be that you want to make sure that you're increasing the number of demos that you're doing each week by X percentage point, whatever it might be. It's using that overarching business goal and then making sure that you're setting measurable targets that you can use to monitor your performance moving forward. And then metrics, whilst they're also measure and monitor and they track data, metrics are typically less important in comparison to KPIs. They can be used to help you monitor and understand how you're working towards some of the KPIs that you've set. But they're very much more about tracking the status of a business process. And so one of the ways that I found really easy to remember it is that KPIs are always metrics, but not all metrics are going to be KPIs. So it's really starting to think about that top level and how you can feed that down into ways that have then become easy for you to measure and monitor moving forward. And Pete is going to talk a little bit more about that in terms of the makeup of a great KPI.
Okay, so a good KPI, it needs to be measurable. You need to know where you're going. So there's no point in having a vague statement such as we need to increase the performance of the website, because there's no guiding principle there. There's nothing that you can use to quantifiably state that we are getting better. And alongside this is the target. So the target is there as the guidepost. You know you're going in the right direction. You also know that you're going at the right sort of speed. And then having a clear data source. So every business and even different campaigns are going to need a different tool or set of tools to give you clarity and give you the chance to make the right type of insights from the vast amount of data that you're very likely going to be generating. So just touching on what Sean mentioned in the last slide. So an example of a KPI, a good KPI, would be to increase customer trials by, say, 15% in 2021. So that would be going from 15 trials per week up to 18 trials per week. So it's specific, it's outcome orientated, and you can measure perhaps the amount of revenue that you're going to be generating. So it's that sort of clear message that you need to have in your KPI.
Great, thanks, Pete. Okay, so we've spent quite a bit of today's session really sort of delving into data, vanity metrics, some of the things that you can do to make sure that you've got the right foundations in place. So now we wanted to spend the last couple of minutes really talking about what you can do from an organization perspective to start embedding a data-driven approach within your organization. And I think there's really sort of like three key ways that you can start to do that. And I think the first one is really evaluate the capability within your team and the tool set that you have available. Most businesses these days will have certain Google Suite. They may have CRM. They may have some other systems that they're also using with all of the different channels that they have that they're utilizing. So it's really important here to kind of look at your team, understand where you might be able to upskill, bring in some additional skill set to support the team moving forward, and then looking at what tools you have already in place and how you can maximize the use of them and make sure that they are set up in the right way, and that they are giving you the data, they're giving you data that is going to help you to generate the insights to improve marketing performance moving forward. The second element is be curious. If something works well, great. Why? If something hasn't worked well, probably even more importantly here, okay, why? Why hasn't that worked? Certainly from my experience with other clients, the greatest learnings have come from when failures have happened. So if something hasn't worked quite as well as we would have liked, then delve into that, start to understand what things might not have worked quite as well, and that'll put you in a really good place to start to think about how you can optimize and improve those moving forward. And then the final message for this slide is really start small. So whether that is a campaign, whether you've got a standalone sort of project that you're working on, start to think about how you can embed data-driven approaches into that project or campaign, understand what works best for you and your team moving forward, and then scale that across the rest of your activity. I think an easy moniker to remember as well is that, when it comes to thinking about the data or metrics or KPIs that you're looking to put in place, if it's not helping you understand how your activity is performing, you probably need to rethink whether or not it's something that you need to measure at this moment in time. And then, yes, just some final quick tips and tricks for how to turn data into your secret weapon. Some other things that you can start to do from today is, start to think about any hypotheses that you can put in place within your marketing. test them, use the data to understand what's working, what isn't, and start to build from there. Make sure that you're validating your assumptions. You'll have a lot of data already at your disposal. So if you've got some ideas around on why something may or may not be working, see if you can validate that with data and your campaign as a whole. And then make sure that you're looking at the whole rather than just the individual. If we take campaigns as an example, you will have multiple touch points, and there's a whole range of tactics and channels that you're going to be using. So make sure that when you're looking at those, how certain channels and tactics are performing, make sure that you're taking that into the bigger, wider context in terms of how that fits into the whole journey that you're taking your target audience on. And that's it for today's session. So as always, we'll be sharing a reporting game plan with you after today, so please keep an eye for that in your inbox. And if you want to explore agile marketing further, then please join us next week for our next bootcamp, which is all on building an emotional connection in B2B. And that will be next Thursday at 10. And we've got 5 minutes left by the looks of it. So Martha, have we had any questions come through from the audience?
Yeah, we've had a few, so I'll just go through them. Just to be clear, if we don't cover any right now, because we've only got 4 minutes left, we'll put those into the email for you, so the follow-up emails with the game plan and the video. So first question is, how do you set measurable goals? So where do you start in knowing what the goal outcomes are going to be?
Oh, sorry, Martha. Sorry, you cut out a bit slightly there, Martha. Could you mind repeating?
Yeah, so how do you set measurable goals? So where do you start in setting goals, essentially?
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, it's a good question. I think when it comes to setting goals, Martha, do you know if this is sort of like at a project level? Are we talking business?
It doesn't say, it just says, I think it's probably, let's go for business. Oh, yeah, project, let's go project. It doesn't say.
No, don't worry, that's fine. I would say when it comes to thinking about measurable goals, I think the first instance is it's kind of it's taking a step back and really looking at what it is that the business is looking to achieve. So let's take, for example, if they're looking to, we work with one of our clients, they do a lot of work around sort of like membership and membership, and so they've got acquisition and they've got retention targets. So if you're looking to think about measurable goals, really start focusing on there. So if the business is looking to generate more members, then that's where you need to start thinking about what your goals should look like. If they're looking to retain members, which is a slightly different kettle of fish, then you need to be thinking about churn rate and what's the retention that you're looking for. Maybe it's also starting to look and understand where you might be seeing significant drop off from previous years. Is there any trends or patterns? Are there any trends or patterns that are coming to light that should be feeding into the goals that you want to set? So if for example, that a standard you typically lose X number of members a year, then you want to take that into consideration as you start to set the goals that you're looking to put in place, and making sure that they're realistic. So looking at previous patterns and trends and really understanding what the baseline is really critical for making sure that any goals that you do put in place are one, realistic, achievable, and you can then start to think about what you have at your disposal that will help you measure them effectively.
Yeah, great. And then another question was, how do you start to set KPIs? So I'm guessing that's probably a similar.
Yes, I would say. I mean, they tie in together. I guess KPIs. The key thing to be thinking about is with KPIs, and some quick wins is that a KPI will be, if we take an example of a campaign, for example, then you're either going to be looking as a KPI to generate X number of leads, or you're looking to increase. A good KPI, a standard formula for a KPI is you're looking to increase X by Y. So whether that is I'm looking to increase like free demos. So if you've got a product, for example, you might turn around and say, well, I want to increase the number of demos that we're getting by 10% every month or every quarter, and that'll tell you that, if you want to increase it by X%, then if you're doing 100 demo, if you've got 100 free trials every quarter, let's say, for ease of simplicity, and you want to increase that by 10%, then you know that you need to be getting 10 extra free trials within that quarter. It's really starting to hone in terms of what it is that you're looking to achieve.
Great. I think that's all we've got time for today. So like I said, any other questions we'll put into the emails, and this week you'll receive your game plan and also the on-demand video, so you can share that with your team. But yeah, if you've got any questions, if you want to get in touch with us about anything, if you want to chat to us about agile marketing more, then please just drop us an email. Yeah, thanks Sean, thanks Pete.
Great, thanks everyone.
Cheers.
See everyone in the next Boots Camp. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.